Hey guys, Danny Johnson here, and my friend has a really cool 35th anniversary GT, and it was leaking on the inside, on the passenger side, as you would go through a car wash. You can see that water really coming in here and getting it all wet. So we're going to go ahead and repair this today. We'll start by opening the passenger side door, and if you look in the door jamb, there's one 8mm bolt that we're going to take out. So that's that one right there. So we found best to use a ratcheting 8mm wrench. You could probably fit a socket in here if you needed to as well. So we went ahead and removed that. Next we'll come over to our A-pillar trim. You'll just put your fingers behind that and pop it straight out. So you don't want to break any clips. They all go pretty much straight in. So as long as you're pulling outward on it, you'll see you have the two clips down here as well, the guide pin as well as the other clip. So just make sure that you're pulling this one straight out as much as you can, and then just wiggle it until you can get that out. Now we'll remove some weather stripping. There's push pins here that you'll just pop straight out, and two more on this side, so you can go ahead and start working on that. At the front, by the door jamb, there's also a few more, one on the side and two on the front. So once you pop those up and out of the way, you can pull your weather stripping out. Next, we're going to, as you can see, pull this part of the weather stripping out here too. There's an inside weather stripping. And now we're going to take our T20 Torx, and we're going to remove the screws that we have up in this rail. So you'll just want to follow it and find everywhere you can take some out. And this has been apart before, so you might find different screws. But once those are out of the way, now we can take this frame rail here and gently pull on it until it comes down. We did see one push pin here right there towards the front. Now there's additional screws up in here. These were Phillips screws, and there were a total of 3 that we found. You might find more. And so once we have those out of the way, you can wiggle this down and then upward. There's a clip at the top right, and so this one had already even been broken, as you can see. But it has this clip here that goes down to the bottom, and then pulling outward is how you get the rest of that trim panel off. Now from inside the car, we'll pop this clip up for the seat belt, and this is a T47 Torx. So remove that one, and then you can take the whole seat belt down. Just remove it, and you can just set this down and let it sit out of place. Then with a Phillips cross-point screwdriver, you can take out the coat hanger rack that also holds this panel in. Now put your fingers behind here and just pry outward. And so you want to be very careful doing that, but just pull out on it, and you'll see here the clips that are going straight in. And there's some here in the back as well. So you're just pulling it straight out. And you can just let that hang there too with the seat belt as well. Now we're going to take a 9mm, and this is for the glass itself if you have to take the window out. And so you want to be really careful with these, especially when you're putting them back in. You can crack the window if you tighten this too much. Now we're going to take an 11mm, and we're going to go and find all 5 of the larger nuts here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and this is for our C-pillar. So we'll go ahead and remove all those. Once those are out, we'll also come out and pop this panel straight up and off. Careful, those bend often and the clips break. But now that this is ready to come out, it's going to come straight out here on the top, and there's also a push pin on the very bottom left at the rear here. So as you can see, we popped it out that way first, and then since these are studs that are going in, the panel needs to come off as flat as you can. So you just want to be careful and walk that one out. So this is what it looks like on the back side. It's just all of these 5 studs. So just make sure you don't pry on them and have it come out flat. Next, we're going to take off the weather stripping that's found here. And we tested this by pouring water into the actual glass part, and we didn't see any water coming out, so we assume that our water is probably coming in through one of the grommet holes. To be safe, we went ahead and put some silicone in here. Now at this point you could pop the window out. It does have an adhesive that's behind it, so you want to be careful not to break the window. But in our case, we're pretty sure it wasn't leaking from the window, and our window's not broken, so we're just going to add some sealant However, at this stage, with those nuts off on the inside, you could pop the window out towards you, but it is glued in, so be careful about that. Okay, so we also put some silicone around each of the holes here. You can see some of the grommets still on here. We put silicone on both sides, and we lined this back up. Now, I believe that this trim piece actually goes on the C-pillar like this, as I'm checking it against some of my other Mustangs. When we did take this other car apart, it had it around the window itself, so you might want to research that, but this looks like it's the way that it's intended to go. Again, the very far back has a little push pin, and then the rest are the studs that are going through in there, so we went ahead and made sure that this was solid. Okay, so we just made sure we lined up all of the studs to go straight in. And you can see this piece was broken here, unfortunately, but it'll still be okay. So from inside the vehicle, now we're putting our nuts back on the studs, and you can see that silicone coming through, so that's going to make a nice seal for us. And so we went ahead and tightened these down, and you can see it kind of spewing out a little bit, and that's going to work for us. Then we took our 9mm socket here and put these back on since we didn't have to remove the window. And again, do not over tighten these. If you put them too tight, you can crack the window. So just make sure that they're good and snug. Go over them a few times. Okay, coming back in now, we're putting our screws back in for our A-pillar trim. So on this car, at least there's one here with the other two at the back. Now we're bringing in our frame rail here, and this was the one that had a push pin on it. Now we're just putting our torque screws back in everywhere that we took one out on this rail for the weather stripping trim. Okay, added these back to back here. Okay, at this point we decided to take our 8mm wrench again and put our bolt back in the front here on that A-pillar trim, just how we took it out. We went ahead and tightened that down. Then we brought our first piece of trim in here from the back, and it would just slide right back in, pop into place. We had a little more trouble with this other trim. We put the push pins in here, but we really had to squeeze it in to get it to stay. We're missing a few push pins here, but we put those back into place as well. And just getting this one to pop in, it did help to put our A-pillar trim back into place here. That helps hold the weather stripping in, so once it's in place, just pop that back in. Then we came in from the rear here and lined up the push pins. So remember, they just go straight in. There's one towards the back and also one at the front. So that back one, just make sure it goes down into that hole there and just line it back up. Push these tabs back into place. Okay, once we got this nice and flat, we're able to get our screw. It's just the Phillips, and put our coat hanger back in. We went ahead and tightened that down. Then we brought in our T47 Torx for the seat belt. Made sure that that was tight and snug. Just put the cap back down there. And now our trim piece here, we just put back onto the rear quarter window, and it kind of pushes down and then slides towards the back of the car to get that to sit right. Okay, so we're all done here. Thanks for watching. Please check the video description. I have a full playlist of videos that are similar to this, and if you're new to the channel, feel free to subscribe. Thanks, guys.